What's up, peers, and welcome to the World Crypto Network here back at the Breaking Bitcoin conference, where we are trying to, well, break Bitcoin and hopefully fix it right afterwards. Here in Amsterdam, a great place to be in, a nice little old stock exchange with a beautiful building. We have here next to me sitting Murch from Bitco. How are you doing?
Pretty well, thank you very much. It's nice to be back in Europe for a change.
Yes, very true. You're usually based in San Francisco, right?
Yeah, Bay Area. Yeah, the headquarters of Bitco are in Palo Alto, so I live in the South Bay.
Okay, very nice. So I mean, how's the spirit there? Because I hear like a lot of the like San Francisco Bitcoin developer meetups, and there's some good stuff there, right?
The very special thing about San Francisco is that there's all these tech companies, of course. All the apps work when you try to use anything, and when you have the Bitcoin meetups, there's actually a ton of people that show up that know what they're talking about. So at the SF Bitcoin developer meetup, which I help organize, we get 100 people or so, of which a large part is engineers that actually work at cryptocurrency companies. So that's pretty exciting. By the way, we'll have a talk on the 24th by Matt Corallo.
Very nice. Very nice.
So come, show up. There was also recently the inaugural Lightning meetup, which was exciting. We had Connor talk about the 0.61 or 0.60 release of LND, and Trey Griffith, who is with SparkSwap, talk about interesting applications of HODL invoices.
Yes.
So that was fun. Yeah, we have a very special, very vibrant tech community there. Yeah.
Awesome.
You can sit at a restaurant and the neighbor table starts talking about crypto and stuff like that happens. It's pretty funny.
Well, good that we continue building stuff like this, right? And especially at these very technical and developer-focused meetups, we really get stuff done, and we then all of a sudden have awesome projects that came out of the first or second Lightning Hack Day, or some other meetup somewhere at some other places. And actually, like, projects and companies are born at these places.
You mean in Silicon Valley or here at Breaking Bitcoin now?
Well, both, I would say, hopefully.
Yeah, so Breaking Bitcoin is pretty interesting so far. We heard just now a talk by Jonas Nick on BIP Taproot. Before that, we had a remote talk by Carl Dong on an improved reproducible build system. So I think that is something that makes Bitcoin very special, is that not only does it a lot of things first and is in a very unique position with its network effect, but there's people working on the really, really hard problems and offering solutions way beyond the scope of just producing a new cryptocurrency network. And like core contributors fixing bugs in OpenSSL and that sort of thing, or driving forward reproducible builds.
Yeah, absolutely. Bitcoin really is at the cutting edge of so many things, and it's quite fascinating, because I mean, before Bitcoin, let's say back in 2005 or so, nobody cared about private keys. Nobody cared about like your real security of your stuff. Like, as an average user, you really didn't care. You didn't even know about it. But every Bitcoin user all of a sudden has like paper backups of his private keys, and all of a sudden is curious about, okay, how can I have secure hardware and everything? So I think just the overall awareness of cryptographic tools has increased greatly with Bitcoin as an incentive to actually use these tools.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a Trojan horse by the cypherpunks to actually make people care more about privacy.
Great plan, great plan.
Yeah. So also, I don't remember who put it like this, but I saw this statement on Twitter a while ago where somebody said, Bitcoin is a policy change in money dressed up as a get-rich-quickly scheme. So I think this whole thing of separation of state and money is a fascinating topic. A lot of people are excited about the opportunity that would bring us.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's quite fun to see that most of the people working with Bitcoin are people that really want to, that really have this motivation to actually get stuff done, which is quite nice. So here, I think especially these 1 or 2 weeks here in Amsterdam show how motivated and involved some people are here. So there are many meetups, many great get-togethers, but one I would especially like to point out is the Core Dev Meetup. Which is filled with many of the core dev contributors who then build or discuss about awesome stuff. So you were also there. What were some of the topics that came up?
Well, for one, it's just a lot of people putting faces to IRC handles and catching up with each other a little bit. Core Dev Tech never does make decisions. It's mostly discussion and trying to find questions, collaborate, get people to review stuff that is important. I think actually if you're familiar with Brian Bishop, he wrote up quite a few of the transcripts of the discussions that we had. Some stuff that came up was Ruben's State Chains initiative. He's going to give a spontaneous talk today here at Breaking Bitcoin because unfortunately Luke Dasher couldn't make it. And then what other things? Well, Taproot was a big topic, obviously. There was a bit of discussion on how soft forks could perhaps be enacted in the future, but it's difficult. There's a lot of game theory to be considered, and I don't think that we're much further than BIP 8 and BIP 9 so far. So there were some thoughts collected on that. I talked a bit with the Bitcoin Optech people. They are, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but there's a scaling cookbook where they try to give some recommendation to Bitcoin enterprises on how to improve their operations in the sense of transaction building, batching, RBF, and that sort of thing. And so I helped a little proofreading one of John Newberry's proposed changes and drafted up a few ideas on what should be in a coin selection chapter. And we had a little bit of a powwow between the Stack Exchange moderators. In fact, all three of us were at Core Dev Tech. So,
very nice.
So there's a bit going on there in the sense that some of our most regular users had been strongly advocating for Bitcoin Stack Exchange to become Bitcoin only, because even though it is named Bitcoin, we previously had the policy that all altcoin questions and derived technology questions were also on topic. But it turns out that people asking questions about altcoins felt not welcome because of the name, pointing out that it is about Bitcoin. And then on the other hand, Bitcoin proponents were not that interested in the altcoin content, so very often, even when questions got asked about altcoin topics, they would just sit for a long time, not get decent answers. Previously, we've tried to advocate to altcoin users that they adopt topics and provide good answers to questions about their projects, but so now we're trying something else, which is that we reduce the scope to only questions that are applicable to Bitcoin, and then the proponents for multi-currency worlds or things like that might be in a position where they can start a cryptocurrency stack exchange, which previously was always cancelled as a proposal because, Bitcoin was already covering that topic, right? Bitcoin Stack Exchange. So this discussion's been going on for years, and it recently came up again about a month or two ago. So we propose now, unless we get some very significant constructive feedback that dissuades us to enact this topic change on 1st of July. So I hope that'll reinvigorate the page a little bit. It's still probably one of the best resources to get information about Bitcoin, but we always need more people to write good questions and good answers.
Yeah, absolutely. Stack Exchange is really, really amazing because most of the time these questions are being asked over and over and over again, and then to have a well-structured archive of all this knowledge, it really is worth something. And most of the questions I have, not just about Bitcoin, but about all types, like in Linux or whatever, you always have a Stack Overflow or some Stack Exchange or some way where you have these Q&A forms. And it's very useful, especially when we have a good community building this knowledge base. And there are many awesome contributors, and you, of course, are one of the main contributors here. It's awesome that we just curate this knowledge in one place.
Yeah, and I want to remind people that actually you don't even have to ask questions and write answers. It also helps already if you upvote and downvote and perhaps propose changes, typos, new tags, whatever. Because the creation of content is also something that is done by the whole community. So if you upvote something, it'll be more visible, and if you upvote good content, it'll improve our front page. If you downvote bad content, it will do so as well. So there's very easy ways to get started on contributing. So we need more people, right?
Well, hopefully bull market soon, and then thousands of people will flock to Bitcoin and help out contributing to the open source space. Or they will just buy shitcoins, probably the latter, but let's see, hopefully.
Well, I'm still hopeful that we might have jumped a little bit the shark of the creation of new networks, because this is now the fourth wave of that. So the first one was the actual just clones of the Bitcoin. Then there was the derivatives that changed things slightly. Then there was a few altcoin projects that actually tried new ideas. Then there was the whole ERC20 ICO craze, and now we have a bit of the IEOs, which I don't think are taking off quite as much.
What is this?
So I guess the interesting thing was that people just provided tools to make it easier to create more coins, in the hope that just making it so easy that everybody can put their thing out there, the cacophony of all the different offers would just make itself irrelevant. And I think to a degree it's worked, and we're getting there now. So I'm still thinking that in the long run there will be a very small number of successful networks that might be distributed in a power law where the first N or so will take the lion's share, and those positions will change out. If you've seen, for example, what was on the top 10 list 5 years ago, then there was this
different
post on Twitter. I think 8 of them are no longer. People don't even know about them anymore today. Maybe we're getting somewhere there.
Yeah, but the really cool thing about Bitcoin is that we have the opportunity of forking off and to change something on your own full node and to run whatever software you want.
Right.
This is really the beauty of Bitcoin and the very important part of having that. But as you say, the more and more competition we have in a monetary aspect, then the better the money will be that emerges.
That actually reminds me. So there was a panel earlier this morning with 3 participants: Eric Voscoil, Rodolfo Novak, and Jimmy Song, and they were discussing for a bit the question whether altcoins are competition. And it was a bit my impression that the prevalent idea, especially between Jimmy and Rodolfo, was that altcoins are not ever dangerous, and this is a dangerous idea that Bitcoin can't fail. Yes, Bitcoin is very much ahead right now. It has a unique network effect. It has the first mover advantage. It has a very diligent developer team that moves forward in glacial speed, but very steadily. And if you look back, actually pretty fast. And it can feel very slow because we're dealing with it every day, looking at what's happening. But if you look back, it's evolved pretty quickly. But by no means does that mean that Bitcoin is no longer an experiment or that Bitcoin cannot fail. And for example, that doesn't mean that we can just go out and a day after Peter submitted his BIP taproot, talk about how to activate it. We have to be really sure that people actually want this proposal, we will have to be sure that it is well structured, that there is no vulnerabilities that can be exploited to destroy what is, well, maybe our only shot at building a sovereign money.
Yeah, that is very true. Like, we really have to be careful. And again, Bitcoin is moving at breakneck speed in many areas. So code review is always needed, and really thorough review of implementations is vitally important. And I think we saw with the last bug, 2 years ago, with the proposed inflation, the CVE's something bug, that one number before Honeybadger.
Was that 2 years ago already? I thought it was last year.
It was last year, right? Like the bug was created because of like code changes that were years apart, and only because of these both code changes working together did the bug actually emerge. So like when you do one change, you really need to be sure that it does not affect any of the previous code base.
Yeah.
Which is not easy.
Yeah, but I mean, some mistakes happen, and nobody is immune against that. And the difficult thing is exactly that. There's so many interdependencies that you have to watch out for.
Yeah. So it's official. Schnorr will be here in 2 weeks. Then it will be done, and we will be finished.
I'm super excited about Schnorr, but I don't think that's quite realistic. I'm thinking probably next year. But I'd be more than happy if it were this year.
You know, actually, next year would already be very fast, to be honest, right? Yeah. Because I mean, it's like on a like, let's say, theoretical level, it's an all-out improvement, right? Schnorr is just better as ECDSA.
Yeah, for the most part, you could say that, yeah.
But I mean, changes to the protocol are always difficult and always very risky.
Yeah.
So
although this one really tickles a lot of the itches. So what I'm most excited about is, well, I work for BitGo, obviously, and we have a 2 of 3 multi-sig wallet, and we need to have accountability, right? So we need to know when the backup key was used to sign, right? We only have one key, so the customer can use their 2 keys to create transactions, and in that case, of course, we want to show that we were not involved in the transaction, right? So especially with Taproot, this becomes it becomes doable, right? So you could collapse everything into a single sig, but a threshold signature with a single sig becomes unaccountable. As in, whoever signed it, it will always just look valid, right? And you cannot tell who produced the 2 signatures. But you can produce a Taproot construction with 2 leaves, and in the root you put the standard case, which would be the BitGo hotkey plus the user key, and then in the other 2 leaves you put the 2 recoveries, or sorry, not the other 2 leaves, but the 2 leaves. So in all the cases where everything is normal and BitGo signs countersigns for the customer, it just looks like single sig.
Yeah.
So it's much smaller, it gives more privacy, it hides the actual public keys that are involved. And if more people adopt Schnorr very quickly, it'll make transactions of BitGo basically indistinguishable from all the other SegWit v1 users.
Yes,
so
exactly.
That is super exciting, and then maybe in the long run, when we get cross-input signatures, there's actually a financial incentive to do coin joins. Yeah. I thought Chris Belcher's talk today on privacy was very interesting. The pay joins and coin joins that he was talking about actually offer some interesting potential to mitigate chain analysis for a bit. Yeah.
Yes, agreed. And I think one of the most awesome changes with Schnorr is adapter signatures, because that allows the same construct as hash time lock contracts, but instead of a pre-image and a hash, we have a secret that is committed to in a tweaked public key and the revealing of the secret in the tweaked signature. And with that, we can do coin swaps, right, where you swap UTXOs. Exactly. Yeah. But
coin swaps, yeah.
Coin swaps, so it swaps on the same chain. And you swap UTXOs from block 100 with block 200. And then the cool thing is that, again, it looks indistinguishable from any other version 1 SegWit with Taproot, right? It could be a multi-sig or mu-sig, it could be a single sig, it could be a threshold sig, it could be a lightning opening or closing, it could be any Taproot cooperative condition, or it could be a coin swap. And that breaks fundamentally the analysis from inputs to outputs, right? Because theoretically, every input to output spend could be a coin swap into some other UTXO somewhere other on the chain. And I think that, together with all the aggregation and the hiding and with all of the coin joins, will just destroy chain analysis, hopefully.
It'll take a while until we get there. I'm also not 100% familiar with the coin swap properties, so can't comment on that. But there's definitely a lot of very interesting stuff coming there, and especially the applicability of Schnorr signature to Lightning. And making channel anchors look like single sig is extremely interesting, yeah. Especially Lightning. I mean, the privacy improvements that come with that. Even if you get a few people sitting along the route of a Lightning payment, they cannot really tell who the final recipient was and stuff like that. So I'm very interested in watching how that will evolve the landscape of especially chain analysis and stuff like that.
We'll see. It's not going to be boring. Okay, Murch, thank you very much for joining us here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yes, for sure. So what are your last final words, and where can the peers find you?
I'm Merchandamus on Twitter, and do more work on Stack Exchange.
Ask the questions.
Vote more. Vote more on Stack Exchange.
Yeah, vote more, ask questions, answer them, all the good stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you very much for joining me today. And peers, see you on the next show here at the Breaking Bitcoin Conference. Bye-bye.